The next concept in this section is dealing with factorials. And factorial is saying if I take the value that's got the factorial, say 5 factorial, it's the same as 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. It's all the consecutive integers up to that value. Some people look at it as 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. But it's the fact that you're multiplying all consecutive integers. So here in this expression, evaluate a factorial expression of 8 factorial over 2 factorial 6 factorial. Let's write this out in factorial form. 8 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8. In my denominator, 2 factorial is 1 times 2, and 6 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6. Now when you see these factorials, since it's all multiplication, there's going to be a lot that cancels out. So here 1 through 6 cancels out with 1 through 6 in the numerator. So I'm left really with just 7 times 8 over 1 times 2, which will give me a 28. If I were to go something a little bit more expansive, where I don't want to write down every single factor, let's say I have 41 factorial over 2 factorial 38 factorial. This is where it's beneficial to write in descending order. I know that in the denominator I've got 38 factorial, and that's 38 times 37 times 36 times 35, all the way down to 1. In the numerator, my 41 factorial is 41 times 40 times 39 times 38 times 37 times 36 times 35, all the way down. So let's just write that as 36 factorial in the numerator over 2 factorial 38 factorial. Now both my 38 factorials cancel out, and I'm left with 41 times 40 times 39 over 2 factorial, which is 2. And that ends up being 31,980. Your calculator does have a button for factorial, and it's under the math area. So if I wanted to solve this problem using my calculator, I could go to math. Actually, let me type in my value first. 41, and I found the factorial. I go to math, and then probability, and option number 4 is factorial. So you hit the math button, and then scroll over to probability, and option number 4 is going to be factorial. So for this one, if I want to do it, I want to insert some parentheses around my numerator. And then in my denominator, I've got a 2 factorial and a 38 factorial. And there's my 31,980. So know that the factorial button is under math and then probability. Along with that, then, we get into the idea of summation. With summation, we are going to be adding all the consecutive terms of a series. So here's what summation notation looks like. It's this big backwards Z or E-shaped thing, which is called sigma. And that's signifying add up every single term of my series that I've got. I is called the index of the summation. N is the upper limit of the summation, and 1 in this case is called the lower limit. So right down here we've got lower limit, there is the upper limit, I is the index indicating the variable that we are using. So in my first example here, I want the summation of the series 3i plus 1 going from 1 to 4. So what that's saying is I'm going to take my expression and I'm going to plug in a 1. I'm going to take my expression and I'm going to plug in a 2. I'm going to take my expression, I'll plug in a 3. I'll take my expression, I'll plug in a 4. So I take my expression and I plug in every single value of this summation, 1 all the way up through 4, and then I add all the results, which in this case is going to be 34. Another example that I could have, let's say I wanted to do the summation going from 1 to 4 of 2i plus 1. I would plug in a 1 for this expression, I would plug in a 2 for the expression, a 3, and a 4. So if I were to plug in a 1, 2 times 1 is 1 plus 1 is 3. If I plug in a 2, I get 4 plus 1, which is 5. If I plug in a 3, I'll get a 7. And if I plug in a 4, I'll get a 9, which would give me 24.